So let me know if you can see the screen, my PowerPoint on the screen. Is it all good to go?
Yeah, we can see your slides.
Awesome. That's lovely to hear. All right. I'm not gonna, as I said, I'm not gonna bore you for too long, but it's a PowerPoint which is gonna talk about objective facts as well as my subjective opinion. So this is about studying abroad in general. So I understand there's a lot of different students in the audience today. So I'll be talking about the opportunity because it's going to be once in a lifetime opportunity for all of you guys. I've actually blurred the opportunity because we still don't know yet what it is going to be. So let's talk about, I've also mentioned that you need to create it yourself because opportunity, it never knocks on a second time. But studying abroad is going to be once in a lifetime opportunity for you, all of you guys. And since it happened to me, I'll tell you it's a game changer. And it's kind of like really revolutionary to what you do in your life. So let's go on. I'm just going to move on with my first slide. So why behind studying abroad? Now, we all want to study abroad, or we want to study higher education in our life. But why abroad? That's something important because obviously we are all pharmacists, and I call myself the jack of all trades because me, just like you guys, graduated a couple of years ago. But we also have, exactly, from MCOPs, we also have all of these different opportunities which are knocking on our doors in our end of our academic studies. So something that we all do, once we graduated out of MCOPs, is we can do research. We all go into some academia in some form. Some people go into industry, some people go into marketing, so on and so on. But let's try to consider why we need to go abroad. So if you consider research and academia, a lot of people do go abroad because that is where research flourishes. So I'm not saying India is not terrible, but if you look at opportunities in India, it's kind of limited by money or all sort of thing. So when it comes to studying abroad, research and academia really flourishes. So that's one point I wanted to make to start off. And the next thing is industry. So this is completely opposite to what I just said. So India is something that we all know is quite famous for in pharmaceutical industries. So if you want to go abroad to study and come back to industry sort of work, you want to reconsider your options to study abroad. And moving on, I have marketing and miscellaneous. So that comes under, a lot of people do have marketing ideas, or they want to do some businesses, or, they want to progress in their life in pharmacy, not the general academic and research stuff. So I've mentioned here, consider, but also come back because your market is in India. We don't have that many markets like not as established as in India. So I would really say consider, but also go back to India. So that's something to start off while studying abroad. So the question is, why do you want to come abroad? So I can tell you this because back in 2016, I was going through the same sort of challenges. I wanted to study abroad. I wanted to widen my horizons. So something that I did was to do a lot of background work. I did a lot of hard work research to actually understand what the different countries had to offer to me. And so in process of that, what happened was I won this thing called the Study Adelaide Scholarship. So it was sponsored by Amazon. But what happened was I wanted to study something that I really aspired to be, which is neuroscience. So later I took a year off. I took a break in between 2016 when I graduated out of MCOPS, and then I won the scholarship called the Study Canberra India Scholarship. So this is in Canberra, and what I found out is that I really wanted to do neuroscience, and some of the universities in Canberra offered me such course. So the reason why I wanted to study in Canberra was probably because I wanted to do neuroscience for my life. So that answers some of the most puzzling questions in your mind. That is, why do you want to study abroad? So it entirely depends on what you want to do in life. So let's move on to the next slide. So this is the what. So we need student visa, guys. Let's be honest. It's all about it. So we want to study abroad, and academia in foreign countries is really rewarding because you get to travel, you get to meet a lot of different people, you get to immerse into the local culture there. So it's all about, the visa. So what do you need to get a visa? It's quite easy because everybody can say, like, even a small kid can say, you need some paperwork, you need money, you need passport, you need some good grades, or, in this case, you want to go study abroad. So you need some good grades, which obviously you guys are going to get good grades at the end of your academic years. So later on, what's the tedious part behind going abroad? So we have these two gate marks, as I would call it. It's called the GRE, or the English exams. So IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, there's a lot of these exams. So I call them the gateways of your study abroad program, because all of these are gonna be the main turning game in your life. But I'm not going to talk in more detail about the GRE and the TOEFL exams, because I'm not an expert in that. I'm not a coach or anything of that sort. But what I would do in this presentation today is I'm going to share what I went through, because all of you are definitely going to put on your hard work. If you ever wanted to study abroad, obviously you have to go through these gateways, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of help from different people. But this presentation, I want to share my experience and my tips to study abroad. So let's consider some of the things. So I've got 4 different pictures on this slide here. So the first one is top universities. Of course, all of us want to study in the topmost universities in the world. So the next one is, of course, the quality of education, guys. Of course, we want to get the highest quality education. We want to come out on top of our fields. We want to be the best in everything. So the next is, of course, our personal part of our life, the lifestyle that we live and what we want to be when we go and study abroad. So that's something you really want to consider, which is kind of important in this case. And also there's obviously the miscellaneous part, which I put in the 4th place, because all of us are so unique. Everyone in your audience is so unique in their thoughts. So the best way to make decisions is to make it for yourself. You got to think for yourself what you are as a person, how you grew up, and what your inspirations are, what your aspirations are, what you want to be, what you want to study. So depending on all that, the 4th part, the miscellaneous part, you want to make a decision based on the first 3 categories here. So you want to go to the top university, you want to get quality education, at the same time have a good lifestyle. So considering these 3 things, I've put my top 10 personal picks. I don't want to list out universities. I'm not going to tell you, oh, this university is brilliant, so next year you're going to have to, work yourself and get to this university. So I've listed some countries which could be potential opportunities where you can plan to study abroad. So in top 10 and 9, I got Australia and New Zealand. So as some of you guys know, I'm living in Australia at the moment, and honestly, there's not much difference between New Zealand and Australia in terms of quality of education, as well as the culture and all these things. So every year you have more than 150,000 people coming to Australia every year, just from abroad, and most of, like 40-50% of that would be Chinese and Indian people. So you can see there's a lot of opportunities to study in New Zealand and Australia. All right, that's pretty much the top 9 and 10. So I've considered the US as one of the most, at the 8th position, as one of the most sought out destinations until Trump came out. I mean, let's be honest, guys. So at the moment, you got to consider when you're going to go abroad, you want to consider your opportunities. I mean, I do agree some of the top universities are in the US, but at the same time, we want to consider the situation that US is going through at the moment with the COVID and, all of these other things. So I'll be talking about how, you want to consider the cost and expenses that you're going to spend to study abroad, but then you're not going to get quality education because everything's going to be online. I mean, just like the presentation here, like, you don't want to be online the whole time, because you want to have hands-on education at the top quality universities. You want to get experience with the teachers. You want to learn a thing or two, which might be hampered because of online education. So you want to consider that while you're going to US or countries which are affected by COVID at the moment. So moving on, Canada is kind of similar to US. I'll talk about a bit more. But the major difference between US and Canada would be Canada is a country which allows people to settle down there, whereas you're going to find it so hard to get visa to US, whereas Canada, people are trying to get settled down here. Obviously, there's reasons that I'll talk about, but that's pretty much the top 7 and 8. So moving on, I've listed a few more. I'll just talk about the countries, so just so that you can get an idea of what you're going to be thinking about in the future, just to get some ideas, guys. All right, so Netherlands is considered as #1 non-English speaking country. All of this above the countries that I've mentioned here are all native to English. So when you're going to go study over there, you're going to have no problems communicating with people, or trying to do things in everyday stuff over there. But when it comes to non-native countries. So Netherlands is number 1. You obviously have to learn their language and all sort of thing. I'll talk about that later. So moving on, Spain, of course, I mentioned Spain as top number 5 because it's considered as the lowest price among all the European countries because the cost of living, the education, the university price, the fee, it's going to be super low in Spain. And I'll probably just briefly talk about it. So on top 4 is Italy. So it's completely different from all the European countries because obviously it's got remarkable culture, history, the food's obviously delicious. So it's kind of a mix of everything. I would say a mix of modern and also the historic era. So you have to consider your opportunities, what you are as a person, because you get to travel around Italy, one of the most historic places on earth. So these are some of the things that you want to consider while studying abroad. And I've mentioned here as France because when I did my schooling, French was my third language, and obviously my dream was to go to France, and it is obviously one of the best places for good education, and not to talk about the rent, the fee, the transportation, everything is super cheap. So these are some of the top picks, just a kind of an idea of what we are looking at when we talk about studying abroad. All right, let's move on. I want to make a disclaimer here. US, as I've said, it's kind of a mixed bag. You can see, like I've just put a cartoon of different things in the US. I call it the mixed platter because obviously you have the good fruits, like you have really good top universities, but at the same time, the political situation, you got to consider the COVID situation, all these things. As I've said, Stanford, Harvard, the list just goes on and exhausts you. But it's a long journey to get there. And, unlike most other countries, US might need the exam, the GRE, which is kind of like math, English, and you guys might know all of that. So it's kind of a year or 2 year long preparation just to get through those exams. So moving on, we do, as I said, we do have a lot of prerequisites, tests, papers, and all of these things. But one advantage in US is if you can track down some of your relatives and friends, you can go there and live with them, or you can share the place with them, get good food and all of those things. So that's some pros and cons with the US. And it's kind of similar to Canada, but as I said, all Canadians are nice. Like the people are super nice. It kind of offers you, like you can actually settle down there for life. So Canada is some country that lets people get permanent residency for sure. Like most people who study there often end up with getting permanent residency. So that's something you want to consider, because one other thing that with Canada you can do is you can go back to US and you can kind of, get your jobs over there. All right, so that's what I said, allows you to find jobs in the US. All right, moving on. I wanted to talk about, I can't let Australia out of the picture. So I'm going to talk about a few things about Australia. So this is just the Australian part here, the subcontinent. So what I can say top of the brain is one of the most chilliest vibes you would ever get around the world. So you would probably like, what you look in the TV is probably like really moody people, but then most often the people are super nice, and you want to study in a place which is quite friendly. You want to be in like a safe environment where it's like at the moment Australia is free of COVID. We don't have that many cases reported, so you want to come to a place where it allows you to make your own decisions and study peacefully. So next thing is work and life balance. That's something that's really important in life. As I've told you, you have to make decisions based on, you got to focus on your life as well. At the same time, focus on the work. So Australia is a country which allows you to do that hand in hand. Like, as I've said, it's probably one of the most chilliest places, chilliest in the sense people are pretty cool about things. They're not super hectic or they don't take things too seriously. Anyway, so I'm going to move on. So you have few places in Australia to consider. So Melbourne is one of the top 10 universities in the world. And of course, the quality of education for pharmacy is super good over there. I'm studying in Canberra, the Australian National University, where I'm doing PhD at the moment over there, right here in Canberra. And obviously Sydney, and you got another option in Brisbane and Queensland. So these are some of the options you guys have to look into the details. I can tell you 4 major places in Australia which are considered as viable options for you to study abroad. So that's pretty much with regards to the universities are obviously top. I'm telling you, from day one, you got to have to work out your own self, because everybody's so unique in the audience. Everybody has their own ideas and thoughts. So I'll talk about how you want to choose your university in the next coming slides. But at the moment, Australia seems promising because I mean I did experience my whole life studying masters over here. So coming to Western Australia and South Australia, you have Perth and Adelaide. These are some of the universities. I did get offered in Perth at the University of Western Australia with scholarship. But unfortunately, what I did was they didn't have an exclusive curriculum for neuroscience. So that made me to reject the scholarship, also reject the university. I mean, I got full fee refund, and I could have lived my life, but I decided not to study there just because I couldn't get the course that I wanted. So that's something that you want to keep in your mind, guys. Something that we really want to keep in mind is the course that you want to study should be offered by the university over there. All right, I'm gonna go. So I got one last pick for you guys, which is kind of UK. I know UK is struggling with COVID at the moment, but it has been reported as the best country to study abroad back in 2020. So this is from statistics from last year. And top 10 universities, of course, Oxford, Cambridge, you got a lot of those. But you got to be mindful of the expenses that you're going to have. Like every Brit over there spends about £9,000 a year. I mean, they do get scholarships or they do get their taxes deducted. So if you're not a localite, if you're not a British born, then obviously we all are. We are going to struggle a lot. So something that you want to consider in UK is also the amount of money you're going to spend for the course. All right. Obviously, working part-time is a big deal in UK more than other countries because you're going to spend more money. So some people work in hospitality. Of course, there's plenty of cafes, pubs, restaurants. So this is something that I want to highlight on your brains, because the problem with studying abroad and the difference in studying in India is obviously the working part-time aspect of things. And I got to realize this early on when I came here to Australia, because you can't make a living just by, studying. So you obviously have to work part time. And I started off as a waiter. I started off a cleaner. I did all sort of things. I did some delivery jobs. I did a lot of different jobs. So I did save up all the money that I earned over the time, and I could pay my tuition fee. Somehow all of these things add up. So that's something that is completely different from studying in India and studying abroad anywhere, rest of the world. That's something that I wanted to make a big point over here. One other thing is UK does have a lot of agencies, more than anything in the rest of the world. I wouldn't highly recommend you to work as a contract workers, because some of my friends did do the contract work kind of shit, like stuff, and they ended up like in a river, like in a really bad situation in their life. So that's something I wanted to point out if you guys ever decide to go to UK. But one major advantage of UK is that you guys can make a note of this website. So it's called the UCAS. So you can kind of it's a government authentic website. You can register on the website, and you can actually see a lot of opportunities. You can kind of see your the course that you want, the place that you want. Obviously, you have London. You've got Edinburgh. University of Edinburgh is probably one of the top universities over here. So you have a platform to look into stuff over there. So that's why UK happens to be one of the top places in the world to study. All right, that's pretty much what I had to say. And obviously, I had a friend who said, if you don't have radiators, it's going to be -1 degrees and it's going to be freezing. So it's not the place for you. So don't go there if you're going to struggle without radiators in your room. Oh, well. So that's pretty much what I had to say. And obviously, there's plenty of places in Europe. I just have a map on your screen, the map of Europe, because at the moment, you want to make sure you don't spend that much money, at the same time get really good quality education. And obviously Europe is one of the best places to get high quality education. And some of my top professors are graduates out of Germany. Some of them are from Spain, like Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia are really good. There's obviously I've talked about Rome being culturally different, and obviously some of my professors are from France, Bordeaux, University of Bordeaux. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Like, you want to consider Sweden as well. Like, and obviously, some of my batchmates got settled down in Copenhagen, and their University of Copenhagen is pretty highly rated as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to say over here on this slide here. So with Europe, you want to consider Germany as your main option. Then you could probably consider Spain, Italy, and France, because some of the top leading country, these are strong in economy. So if you're going to go to that country, you want to make sure the economy is strong and doesn't crash the next day. So you want to live in a peaceful environment. you want to get the best education, in the world. So it's also modern, technologically, and also innovatively. These countries are some of the, technologically modern countries in the world. So you want to have free education. So that's something that that's one of the main reason why you want to go to the European countries, is because most of the public universities are free. So you don't have to pay anything for it. As long as because we are international students, we want to get the scholarship, and there's plenty of opportunities for getting scholarships in European countries. So I'll give you a link of some of the websites that you want to look into at your own time. But I wanted to share some of the questions that I get asked all the time. So I don't speak Spanish. So what do I do? Are my classes going to be in Spanish? What about my program? Like, is it going to be like, am I going to understand it? Am I going to make friends because everybody's going to be talking in Spanish? And what about the cultural shock? Like, everybody's so differently dressed and they're just so different. And I'm going to feel homesick because I don't have my inmates, or I don't have people who are from the same place. And how am I going to go out in Spain? Like, I want to go outside, just touring everywhere. So some of the questions these are all confusing because everything's going to be different when it comes to European countries, and every country is so different. So, but what you want to consider is the free education. So what people do is they learn the language. So some of my friends, they take classes, they take German classes, and I took French classes when I was in school. So that's something that you want to consider. But once you master Spanish, then you're going to have free education for the rest of your life. Like, the quality is going to be super good. All right. I'll probably try to send all of you guys the links to all of the websites here, because some of these websites are really useful, and it's probably going to save you like tens and tens of hours trying to look through the internet, because I think I'm pretty sure I use most of these websites, and it kind of gives you an overview of what's going on in that country. And for instance, how you want to get a German visa, or scholarships offered by dad, or if you want to study in France, and what are the campuses in France, like what do you want to look into. So some of these links are really useful. That might save you time, and I'll try to get you all of your guys like these links. All right, I'm gonna go on, just move on a bit different to what I've been talking about for the past 15 minutes. So I'm going to talk about accommodation. Obviously, it's a bit different to what we used to live in India. And first year is going to be a major cultural change, because you're going to live in a university house. Like, there's no way around it. It's kind of safe, but it lets you settle down. So you're going to share your life with old friends, and you're going to be with so many different cultures. It's easier to get uni house for undergrads than postgrads. So postgrads is masters in this case. So obviously, you're going to go do master's degree. So it's going to be super hard to get university houses. And you're going to be sharing the rooms. You're going to get to know different people, different cultures. You're going to have to get used to their routines. Like, somebody might wake up in the middle of the night because they are used to that style, and we probably might not get used to it. So yeah, the cooking, you got to have to share the food with them, or share the space with them. So all of that is going to be different. Obviously, it's going to be expensive. So you want to, I've already talked about this. So the price, you have to talk with your parents about the cost of living, because we all need our support from our parents. So that's something that you want to consider when you want to study abroad. From second year, obviously, you'll have more friends, and you can share your houses. You can have acquaintances with you. You can probably buy your own car, and you probably do all sort of things growing up as an adult. All right, just moving on, taking a gap year. So that's something that I wanted to emphasize during the talk today, because you have to make up your mind. So I've put it in past tense, because made up your mind. Because once you make up your mind to study abroad, you'll have to take time and dedication. You have to work really hard to make all these qualifications. So nothing wrong in taking a gap year. So I took one myself. I told you I wanted to do something that I really wanted to do. So I didn't mind wasting my time doing all the background research, going through all the universities, shortlisting my stuff. So I didn't mind wasting my time. I don't really want to call it wasting your time, because I'm technically just spending my time to look into my future. So don't worry about don't work. So that's something that I would highly recommend you guys to do once you graduate out of B Farm. Like, I wouldn't recommend you to work in an industry if money is not an issue, obviously, because you can solely dedicate your time and effort to doing your research and understanding what universities have offered for you. And obviously, online courses, that is something I wanted to highlight on, because it's not just about taking a year or two away. At the same time, you obviously have platforms these days. So you can do a lot of online courses, you can develop your skill sets. So that's how I got into neuroscience. Obviously, I had so much passion for the brain to understand how it works. I took up all these online courses, probably did like 20, 30 odd online courses from so many different universities. I did spend a lot of money on it, but I don't regret it because those are the platform that you want to take to study more. So can we just talk, like sit down with pen and paper? So this is something that I want to highlight because at that particular time when you're making these decisions, you want to have somebody who's more like who's going to give you input. So the best people would be your parents because they're going to give you money. They're probably going to give you all the information that you need. They're going to share everything with you. So you want to sit down and just talk with them. So you want to have pen and paper because you want to shortlist everything. You want to tell them at the same time, you want to reinforce yourself. So that's something you want to do. Take some time off. If you feel all of that is so pressurizing, just pack a suitcase. Like, you could just go for shopping, get some clothes, get some different seasonal clothes, pack a suitcase, guys. And one last thing I wanted to highlight during the gap year is obviously it takes a lot of time and effort to make your SOP. And SOP is statement of purpose because that's something that is really a game changer because I've mentioned here, they're going to read you to decide you. Basically, SOP is like the most important thing about getting or studying abroad because people are going to judge you to take you into their universities are going to read your statement of purpose. Why do you want to study here? Like what is your inspiration? What do you want to do here? Like what do you want to use the resources in the university here? So the best way to SOP, I've just mentioned a bit here. So it's to interview yourself. So you got to understand yourself more than anything else in the world. So I really want you guys to keep your to mind clear and also take your time and effort, like make your decision because as I told you in the first slide, it's going to change your life. All right, final few points before I end this talk, and I'll definitely take some questions, is to learn to accept pain and rejection. Because obviously you might spend so much time applying for so many different universities, spend a lot of time, and it's going to be so much pain because you're dedicating your life for it. So obviously you learn to accept the pain. I did get rejected so many times from so many different universities in the US because I wanted to do medicine. So that's something you want to consider. So next thing is unconditional offer. So you always want to go for an offer which the university says we want you, because sometimes most universities provide a conditional offer, which is say but, because they always say but we would like to take you, but we want to give you some. Don't ever do that. So always take unconditional offer to whatever universities you're getting. And obviously I've talked about IELTS. I emphasize on IELTS more than TOEFL because IELTS is more you get to interact with the person. And I felt a bit more comfortable doing the IELTS than the TOEFL exams, and also around 300 euros. I'm not exactly sure what the prices are, but I found IELTS to be much more easier. I mean, when I wrote my IELTS, I didn't even know it was a paper-based exam. So yeah, so I went to an exam hall. I saw everybody has a pen and a paper. I was like, what is going on here? So obviously you want to write your IELTS exam and you want to get a really good score around 8 or something like that. And all of these different components, the trickiest bit about IELTS is we do this all day, listening, talking, writing, reading, like throughout our 4 years. And even before that in our schools, we've been used to all of the 4 components of IELTS, but yet so many of us struggle to get a good score in IELTS. And it's not really a trick, but I mean, obviously I can't share everything about the IELTS in this video or in this seminar, but definitely something that you want to consider is we have been doing this all day. So you definitely need to go into, like, there are some free services online. There's so many YouTube videos. You got to find your own strategy to get the top score, and they keep changing the curriculum every year. So I'm not going to comment on it. Finally, be mindful of the deadlines. And something that's different while studying abroad is that you have a 2-semester plan. So you have a summer or winter term. So that's something, and the deadlines are always different for every different term. So that's something that you want to note down, and you want to have a pen and a paper. So that's why you want to have, oh, this university I've applied for this semester, and that's the deadline. So this is where I want to stop. and I don't want to apply anymore because I'm going to waste my money. So this is what you want to consider. And at the end, I have one more. So have many options, because I've told you you need to make a short list of universities, but clear in what you want to do. And for instance, I was pretty clear of what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do neuroscience. So I didn't bother about university, getting like in the top university. So I wanted to consider the quality of life that I'm going to live. So I knew Australia was going to be a relatively safe place to live. And I was pretty clear I wanted to do neuroscience. And these guys were able to give me scholarship for some time. So these are some of the things that I consider when I took up a master's degree in Canberra. All right. So of course, use the free services, because some of the agencies in India, they do offer free services to some countries. So you want to make sure you put your heads up for that. You put your hands up. Put your hands up for that, and you say, I want to take your services. Make sure you use all of their facilities, because countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, they don't really charge you for any of their services. Like US, I did spend like 20,000 rupee or something just to get services to US. But then I realized I'm just wasting my time, because whatever they could do was nowhere equal to what I could do myself. Because when I did my own research, looking through all the websites, looking through all the universities, trying to shortlist the courses, trying to look into their content, I think the most satisfaction came to me when I did the research myself. So obviously use the free services, but work for yourself. And finally, don't be scared to communicate with your parents, because it's a decision making that is going to change your life. And you want to make sure you involve your parents. Tell them that I'm going to study in this place. I've shortlisted these many universities, and this is what the course fee is going to be. And there's going to be 2 years of this study. And then I'm planning to work part-time here, and it's going to charge that much. So it'll be, you need to definitely communicate with your parents during that time. So with that smiley face, I would like to end this webinar, and I'll be more excited to answer your questions, or try to answer your questions to my best of my knowledge. Thank you so much. Yep. If anybody has any questions, I can definitely feel free to ask me. Even if it's like, what food do you eat, or where do you live, or ask me anything. I don't care.
Hey, there's someone called Yashodhan Desai who has written something on the chat box.
Yeah. Can you please read that? Unfortunately, I can't see it on my screen.
Sure. It's, good evening, sir. I'm Yashodhan Desai, a student of second year B Farm. My question is, can you throw some light on the universities and quality of education in Germany?
Yep. So something that I've really emphasized with German, like over the other countries, like France or Italy, because I'm not sure exactly if you want to know Heidelberg, University of Berlin, like there's some more, I can't remember on top of my head, but obviously all of these universities, they offer free education, like right from school till you actually end your studies, you're going to get free education. So if you want me to shortlist, I'm so sorry. I would definitely recommend you to do your own research. And also, I've told you, you got to consider what you have in your mind. Is it pharmacology, or is it pharmaceutics? Or you want to be clear in what you want to do. And obviously, based on that, you look into the university's website. So I would recommend you to go through their website. You would go into their course, what they have to offer you. I would recommend you to look into their curriculum. You want to see, do they talk about, let's say if it's pharmacology, do they talk about the drug interaction, or do they talk about, all the chemical or whatever? You want to make sure, you want to get an idea of what they're offering you, and then choose a course based on your interest. It applies to anything, like in any field when you're going to study abroad. It entirely has to match up with your interest. And if it doesn't match up, let's say there's some component of math involved in it, like you have to do like 10 units of integral calculus or something, you don't want to choose that university. You know what I mean? Like, even though it might be the top university in the world, if it's not something that is of your interest and you're not really good at it, then I would definitely tell you to step back and then have a look at a different university which gives you scholarship. Or so those are some things. I mean, it's a general answer, I know, but yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about Germany. And like, yeah, they're pretty technologically sound. Like some of the professor, like I do remember one of my professor in masters, he was a German ex-military surgeon, and he was like super hefty, and he almost made me cry during some of my interactions because, yeah, they're pretty different people. They have different kind of sarcasm, and obviously you're gonna have to learn German. One of my friend who works in an engineering company there, he's got his Zoom meetings and he's like talking in German. I'm like, how do you know that well? Like you pretty much spoke English or Hindi or whatever, and then now you're speaking in German fluently. Like, how did that happen? So, yeah, Germany is quite different, and obviously all the European countries, you got to learn the language. Like, yeah. Anybody else has anything else to say?
Rahil Anwar has asked, how much of an impact does a project work or any other additional research make during the application process?
Yep. Thanks for the question. So that's something that I probably missed out during the talk. So I mean, I've told you the good part, the bad part, the hard work is kind of like interesting because it did take a lot of effort in doing all the different projects. Like for instance, I did go through the Indian Academy of Science when I was in my second year, and I've talked about this before. But so something that really helped was the small summer projects that I did. And obviously we had a final year BFAM project, and all these things added up because even though I never got to publish anything, all of that kind of counted as a mini summer project. Then you can mention all of these in your SOP because you want to write a story in your SOP. You want to say where you came from. This is where I was. I had this inspiration from, let's say, this professor or this event, or that particular incident. You want to tell a story of your life. Like SOP is basically that. Like you're telling yourself your own story. You want to say that this is what happened at that particular moment. I was doing this, and suddenly it struck me and I could never get over. It can be something of a personal incident as well. Like you could say, I wanted to treat this disease because such and such loved one was near me. And so all of these are like story. And so when it comes to summer projects, coming back to your question, so all of that is really important to building your own story because you're going to tell them where you're going to be in the future, right? So these summer projects are really important. I did tell you I did go through the Indian Academy of Science, and I'm telling you that changed the way I think about, think about research in general, because obviously I'm in research at the moment. So yeah, thanks for the question, but definitely to make it more clear, all these add up. So it's basically telling your own life story. So you want to make sure you get as many opportunities as you can in your undergrad so that you can then go on to tell these stories to get a position for your master's degree. Yeah.
Uh, there's one more person who has written, Arnab Ray. What type
Yep.
of qualities in students are universities abroad looking for?
Yep. Yeah, thank you so much. So it's not about, so let me give you an example because I don't want to confuse you guys. So my professor, my supervisor, happens to be the director of education at the Australian National University. So I'll tell you from his perspective of what he looks for in a student, because obviously I see him read hundreds of emails every day. Like people usually coordinate through emails over here. So they type in their emails. Hey, I'm interested in this. I have so much such and such experience. Please have a look at my CV. Please have a look at my SOP. I want to join this university, do my master's. So what he looks for, he's filtering out students. Obviously, when somebody's going to select you, they have to know if you're qualified enough. And obviously, once you're getting through Manipal, that's something that I've told to a lot of my students as well. Manipal is considered as one of the top tier universities from India. So when you're going to apply to studying abroad, Manipal is considered, I forgot what the term was. It was some grade A kind of thing. So that's something you automatically are an eligible person to be, apply to be applicable for the scholarships, to the position there. So these are something. So studying Manipal itself is a really big deal, guys. You don't know the importance of that unless you get out of that. So that much I can tell you. And the next thing is obviously they look for the quality. So the quality comes from SOP and the story that you tell. I emphasize that so much because I don't know you. So let's say I don't know anybody in the audience personally myself. So if I'm going to look at you, so the only gateway that I'm going to use is your SOP, the story that you're going to tell me. And humans, we all love stories. And if you're able to tell, like, I would definitely recommend you to read some short fictional stories or, some kind of stories that kind of tells you it has one starting point and you're kind of mapping it out slowly and you're having all these different standpoints in your life and you want to make sure you explain it, take it personal, guys. That's something that I've emphasized a lot for some of my students. Take it to your personal level, try to and elaborate on the story, and then when you come up, that brings the quality. So when it comes to, like, I don't know the quality in general. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I don't know if it's like a colored person or, you know what I mean. We don't see that when it comes to the quality itself is dependent on the story. So you definitely want to focus on your SOP. And unfortunately, I can't show you at the moment. Like, I don't have my SOP at the moment. I was so excited. I couldn't find my SOP. It's been years, but I'm sure you'll find a lot of resources online, or some of the YouTube videos these days are pretty ridiculous in explaining how to write a kick-ass SOP, or like get the top SOP to get to the top universities in the world. I'm sure you'll get a lot of resources into that. But yeah, obviously, when I did write my SOP, there was a lot of versions of it. So that kind of so the quality thing comes into play. The first version of what I wrote was a really blunt, a bad looking version. And the quality improves because once you give it to different teachers, like let's say you give it to some professors or your parents or somebody who's good in English, you get them to read your SOP for you. Like you're asking them, can you please read my story and tell me some suggestions, or all of that reshapes the quality in getting through a university. So yeah, that's something that I really wanted to emphasize. Like you want to reshape. It's like sculpturing your own life. Like it could have been just that, you did your second year, but then you want to make sure you make all these different points, highlighted. So that's something, yeah. I don't know if it answered your question about quality, because we just don't know. Like my professor always tells me, like, we don't know who that person is, but we judge them based on the story that they say. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, not everyone is able to mute themselves. That is the reason. So they have put their questions in the chat box.
Yep,
Uh,
that's right.
yeah, Arnab Ray is thanking you. So one more, this someone called Shekhar Pandey. He said, "Good evening, sir. I'm Shekhar Pandey from Second B Farm. Do we have to give only ILTs for admission in top colleges?"
Yeah, so that's something that I don't know if I told you that. So US definitely needs GRE and TOEFL. So TOEFL is similar to, it's an English exam as well, but TOEFL has more computerized. There's differences between IELTS and TOEFL. TOEFL is more computerized, where you sit in front of computer. You have to be really fast in your typing skills, and you got to be really fast in the way you communicate with the computer. So for instance, at the moment, I'm talking to a screen in front of me, and trust me, guys, it's super hard for me to be interactive and communicate with every single one of you. And it's a bit challenging because I don't really have a, I don't know what you're looking at or where you are. So that's something of a disadvantage with TOEFL. You got to talk in front of a computer. So US needs TOEFL and GRE. You obviously know most universities in US need GRE, which is a combination of English and math. So I did go through a lot of GRE myself, and pain-striking nights and nights of memorizing random English words, which I'm never going to use in my life because I just don't know what they are. So GRE basically tests your memory to remember different random words in your life. Like that's something, as the previous question, the quality. Like I know it's a sad reality of life, but these agencies, the GRE and the TOEFL or IELTS, they kind of designed these exams in a way so that they're kind of filtering out all the people who can't remember these words or complex mathematical formulas. So that's the sad reality, but unfortunately every single one of us has to go through these barriers, because that's going to be the key barriers in your future. If you want to go through studying abroad or anywhere, unfortunate reality is that you do have to go through these barriers. So coming back to the question about TOEFL, so that's more to the US, whereas Canada, Australia, European countries, they accept IELTS. So I've told you IELTS is more of a user-friendly version of TOEFL, where you get to write. So it was a pen and paper exam. I went into my IELTS exam and I was looking at the exam hall with hundreds of people. And I was like, why is everybody having a piece of pen and paper? At that time, I didn't know it was a paper-based exam. So I had to give that. And the other thing about IELTS is you get to interact with a person. So when it comes to the speaking exam, so you get to so a person asks you a question instead of a computer. So that's something that I really found it helpful because I could talk a bit more when it comes to in-person interaction. Obviously, we all can, and at the same time, the person helps you to answer it. So they kind of like, yes, you can go on, and they kind of help you do the interaction a bit more. So obviously, you would end up with a higher band writing an IELTS exam than a TOEFL. So yeah, that's something to consider. And obviously, I've told you Australia, European countries, they're okay with IELTS, but you have to always confirm with the university because some of them really need that band or some of them really need IELTS. So yeah, so those are some things that you want to consider. Yeah, one more point that I wanted to make is when you want to get into US, you definitely need a GRE. Like 90%, I would say universities in US need a GRE. And if you're not good in math like me, like I can't remember formulas. Like if you give me a formula, then I can somehow work it out. But it's all about like remembering some of the key things, mathematical concepts, and half the component of GRE happens to be math. And I did go for math tutoring. I think it was in third year or something in B Farm. I think I had to take some time off doing some math. I was like, I'm struggling myself remembering all these structures in chemistry, all these phytochemistry structures, and now you give me more complex mathematical formulas to remember. So yeah, that's something you guys have to watch out because you want to make sure you don't want to do it at the fourth year. So you want to do the preparation when you're in your second year, or maybe, I don't know, if you're good in math, probably in the first year. Like you want to get these concepts straight. You want to work out, be in top of your math field. Yeah, because half of it, GRE, is going to be math-based, quantitative, qualitative analysis of your brain. So yeah, and that's pretty much with the exams, Akshara.
Yeah, there's another person called Ahmed. He has written, Sir, why did you mention that students looking for a career in industry should reconsider foreign universities?
Yeah. So something that I did mention was industries in general, because let's say, for instance, Australia, I don't have any renowned pharmaceutical industry. So you can do education here in Australia because, I mean, you're getting the quality education. But you want to consider when you go back to India, is your degree going to be valid? Let's say you're going to get a degree of master's in pharmaceutical from University of Western Australia. You're going to go back to, like, let's say you're going to try to find a job in Australia. One scenario, you're trying to find a job in Australia. The problem is you don't have that many opportunities. You don't have that many industries. It might be a different case for Europe because Europe is quite good in pharmaceutical. Like, I mean, pharmaceutical industries, technology, all of that is quite famous in Europe. So it's a bit different, but I think some of the countries are a bit slacky when it comes to industries. So we all know India is like, we have top companies, man, Ranbaxy, Cipla, like I don't even know how many companies there are these days. So there's more opportunities for you to go back to these companies, like join as a lab technician or a research assistant or a production line manager or something. Like you have more opportunities means more goals, right? You get settled down in your life. So yeah, like it depends on your end goal, I would say, as well, because some people, money might be the most important thing. Like obviously there's other ways to earn money in life, and I personally tell all of my friends and students that pharmacy or healthcare in general is not a money making business. So yeah, when it comes to like decision making, you always want to go back to India. You want to join an industry or a company which is famous. You want to get settled there. So yeah, if money is I don't know. So yeah, it's a bit puzzling because yeah, it depends on the person, who you are. It depends if you need money or yeah. But opportunities here, at least in Australia, are pretty minute, I would say. Like we don't have that many top universities or industries in this case. So yeah, you always want to go back, and going back means that, is my degree going to be valid, or is people going to be okay with my qualification? Are they going to treat me to the same level as you getting a master's degree from man, I forgot the Nipur or some of those top, or even Manipal. Like if you get a master's degree from Manipal, you're going to be in the top competitor to get a industry work in the industry. So yeah, you want to consider these top universities, man. Like Manipal itself, you have a lot of people coming from industries. They give you a lot of opportunities at the end of fourth year to join their universities. They take up so many people every year. So yeah, you get so much opportunities. That's the only reason why I said India is better when it comes to industries than abroad. Yeah, but when you want to study abroad, then yeah, that's a different question altogether.
So we have one last question from Rajeshwari.
Yep.
She's saying, good evening, sir. Which of the countries from the ones that you have listed have major opportunities in the industry?
Oh man, I'm really so the countries I've listed you is generally in terms of studying abroad. I'm not really so I haven't been in pharmacy field for a while, like since I left Manipal. I'm sorry about that if any of you. So yeah, sorry, I'm a bit. You have to do your own background research, and even if I tell you, you got University of Copenhagen has that many students there, and all of them got taken up into industries, and all of them are working in a really big position. Even if I tell you that, what are the chances of you getting through there? You got to find your own. Yeah, you got to find your own ideas, your own field, and then you're going to go into that particular country. So as I've told you, you have to make sure a list of all these different considerations. And unfortunately, I can't help you in terms of pharmaceutical industries when it comes to company, but I can tell you in terms of studying abroad, that's the only thing I can comment on. I'm sorry if that's it's not really helpful, I know, but sorry about that.
Okay, we have someone called Flyden, and he's asking how much of the fees will be covered by scholarships in Australia.
Yep. So, for instance, talking about scholarships in general, apart from European countries, you're never going to get 100% fee waiver or even scholarship. So, there are two different things that you want to consider. One is fee waiver, because education is free in European countries. But if you want to get scholarships, you're going to have to apply for scholarships. So, scholarship, I mean for your own living expenses, for your food, and for your personal expenses, all of these other things. In Australia, you do have certain limited scholarships, but you want to have to look into that university. So scholarship comes from too many different sources. One is it comes from the government and it comes from the universities. So you want to consider all these different aspects when you consider scholarship. But what I can tell you is never going to cover 100% of your scholarship. So the scholarship that I got during my first year of my master's was probably enough for one semester. So the first semester I came here, I never had money, so my dad had to give me all of the money that I had. So all of the expenses, the rent, food, whatever I needed, all of that came from my dad's account. So it's almost like all of his life saving was in my hands. So that's how ridiculously expensive studying abroad is. So I had to work part time, and I've told you, it's totally hard work because you're going to have to maintain your life as well as your part-time work. You're going to have to make your money, but at the same time, I always tell, please keep this in mind, never do Uber jobs or anything of that sort. Like most of the people who come to study abroad, because the easiest way to make money is to drive an Uber or whatever, the taxi, or because all of us are really good in driving and we want to make really quick money, or we want to drive Uber. But the thing about driving an Uber in general is that it's never going to get you into some place. So this is to talk about scholarship and money. It's pretty much the same thing. So when you're driving an Uber, what are you going to tell as your life story? Are you going to say I was driving Uber for the past 5 years or 20 years? Because one of my roommate had as a PR application, he had, what were you doing for the past 20 years? I was doing part-time, some sort of course from a university, from random online university, and I was doing Uber. Like, what are you going to tell people when you're applying for a residency or anything of that sort? So I know money is the thing that you need, but at the same time, you want to make sure you get into tutoring. So that's something that I did. So this is to talk about scholarship. So scholarship is not going to cover your whole expenses. So I did tutoring for some of the courses in my undergrad. So I did tutor some of the undergrad students in the university. It's not a lot, but everything counts. So I saved up a lot of money on it, and I started to work in a restaurant. And I realized, why do I need money? I need food, right? At the end of the day, you want to have good food, you want to have good, healthy life. So I started working in a Turkish restaurant, and I started working every day. I got few shifts every week, and I started to work as a waiter, kitchen hand, and then now I'm a chef, part-time chef at a Turkish restaurant. So that's the thing. I'm trying to maintain my life outside scholarship, and it's hard to get these scholarships. That's something you want to consider. But once you do get it, cherish it, because you want to make sure you apply to all different scholarships, and you want to tell a good story. You want to be a good competitor when you apply for these scholarships. And when I did apply for a lot, 90%, it was almost like it was almost like a throw of a card. Like you either get it or you don't get it. It's almost like a grant proposal where you get rejected for a grant. People just blindly close your eyes, and so the scholarship part, you definitely need to be a bit on par with your GRE exams or your TOEFL scores, or your SOP, the way you say it. So it's, at the end of the day, it's never going to cover 100% unless you're from a European country. So that's something of a point I really want to make clear in your mind. If there's any confusion, I'm happy to sort of clear it. So yeah, it's never going to cover your whole thing. So you have to work part-time. You have to make your own life. So it's, yeah. I think I see some hand, like Nandini. Do you want to ask a question? I'm sorry, I'm a bit puzzled here. If you can put your question, if you can't unmute yourself, Nandini, you can just pretty much drop your question on the comment chat. And I don't know why I can't read the chats as well, but hopefully Akshara can somehow communicate with me, and I'll try to answer you.
Yeah, I think she did it by mistake.
Okay, cool, no problem. Yeah, if anybody else has any other questions, I'm happy to try to answer. I'll just give it some moment. Yeah.
I guess these are the questions that came up.
Yeah.
I think there's no other questions. So, sir, it was really great having you online. I mean, thank you so much for taking time from your. I mean, I know it's like 10:30 in Australian
Yeah,
time,
that's all right.
and thank you so much for taking time from your schedule for doing this for us. We are all. I mean, I have already started getting comments from people that it was a really great one and was so insightful. So, I
Well, I
mean,
hope everybody could get something out of it. I know it's a lot of information. Like I might have been super fast with it, but I definitely have to go at that pace to cover that much for you guys. So I've tried to scatter a lot of different information for you. As long as some of these scattered information reaches you, and if it's able to help you, I'm happy about it, because all of this information is, at the end of the day, it's to get you thinking, because you want to make, you're the best decision maker for your own life. You know who you are. You're going to make decision for yourself. You know what you're going to become. So all of that is just scattered piece of information. You should almost forget that piece of information that came from me. At the end of the day, you should make your own decision, and you should be happy about it. That's what you really want in life. Anyway, thank you so much for this opportunity, everyone. And hopefully it was helpful. And yeah, have a lovely evening and rest of your day.
yeah, thank you so much. We'll soon get in touch with you if we have anything.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, and
Right.
on behalf of our maps, we would like to thank you for taking your time. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. See ya.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yep. See y'all.